And now let's quickly go back to our earlier big story on the Dangote refinery that has just been opened. We bring in oil and gas expert joining us live from Lagos, Peter Esele. Peter, good to see you and thanks for your time. This is one big news. Many people, industry players like yourself, have also spoken about and, quite frankly, let us in first on what this means for Nigeria and the continent.
Thank you, Suleiman. Thank you for having me. I think this is a watershed moment. It's something that we are all proud of. And one thing that is going to be very beneficial to the Nigerian economy. First of all, let's look at the job creation aspect. It's going to create over 100,000 direct jobs, that's refineries. And then you have 100,000 direct jobs. And then you are also going to have what we call the indirect jobs. So if you say for every new worker, will be serviced by about 2 or 3 people. By 2 or 3 people, I mean you have to have the food vendors, you have to have transportation, you have to have other means to service just a worker. And as a result of that, you are going to have direct jobs over 100,000, and then you're going to have indirect jobs that is going to be over 200,000. So on the job aspect, fantastic. And the other aspect that is very, very interesting too is that our energy dependence, our energy security, this is going to be guaranteed because we have it in-house, in-country. There's no need for importation. The third aspect is that the pressure on Forex is also going to go. The fourth aspect is that this same refinery is going to generate billions of dollars for the economy. So all around, I'm very excited, even though I'm not an employee of Dangote, neither am I from Dangote's family. I'm very happy for what has happened today, and I know this is good for our country.
No doubt every Nigerian is as excited as you are, Mr. Peter Esele. But one question that continues to, bother Nigerians is if an individual could come up with such a massive refinery, how come a state like Nigeria has not been able to, fix 4 refineries or so over the years? And does it matter really that this might just be a monopoly?
No, I don't think one of the things that has happened over the years, let me just use simply the civilian administration, which is from 1999 to date, that's about 24 years, is policy flip-flop, policy inconsistency, and the lack of discipline to follow through whatever they have on paper. So, and again, lack of critical analysis. So when all of those rudiments are missing, so you are not going to be able to fix refineries in 24 years. So what this also means is that it's going to bring pressure on the state-owned NNPC, which of course also means that NNPC also need to sit up or be shaped out. So now these are the challenges that will also arise. I'm not looking at the monopoly aspect. We've been importing products from Europe and America. So if a Nigerian is monopolizing the Nigerian state, I'll be happier than to have somebody elsewhere from Europe, from America, not dictating what we do. So if we have a Dangote and a Nigerian company owned by a Nigerian, dictating the pace within the country, that we can have control, that we can have regulations, that we can make laws to control. So for me, that is not too much of a worry. And if the government itself is also not moving in that direction, you have private sectors. And I always believe that there are areas where the private sectors can perform, and there are areas where the government can also perform. I'm not saying government should take hands off business. No, I don't subscribe to that. But government must also have what I call an effective regulations to ensure that the people are not shortchanged at the end of the day. But I would rather look at this very moment, not the time for me to look at the system and critique it, but to also now say thank you to Dangote for providing solution. Because most times we are very good at critiquing, but we lack that ambition, that critical analysis faculty to find solution to our problem. And that is what Dangote has done. And invariably, Dangote may also make more money for providing solution.
Well, Peter, we'll come back to the good of this refinery because I know this is your area of, play. But quickly, let's go back to in time. I'm also trying to latch on to what Ngozi asked earlier on. Recall then, President Yar'Adua had actually sold the refineries to some business concerns. Aliko Dangote was one of them, and Yar'Adua came on to reverse that. And do you think, now you're going back to the flip-flop policies of government, shouldn't we also now be thinking of the possibility of getting some private players to come in, perhaps in the days ahead, to look into the moribund refineries?
Yes, I think, let me just correct something. I think it was Obasanjo that sold the refineries, then Yar'Adua now came to revoke it. But they were behind the scene politics, which I don't want to discuss on this program, so that I don't take the shine of this very wonderful moment that we have. Now, if we are talking about, I think going on, the NNPC is going to explore that, because you had Pengasin and you have Nupeng. They've always talked about co-operator and the government, which is kind of a partnership whereby the co-operator owns about 51%, while the government owns about 49%. The NLNG model. And it has been very successful with the NLNG. So unions were initially always asking for that to happen. But because of this policy flip-flop and government inconsistency, government didn't want that. I also don't want to go into those details, all those behind all those racketeering that has been going on, which of course this Dangote refinery will just allow to die on its own. Because right now, nobody from July is going to be, we are going to get the first product coming in by July 2023. So hopefully that brings to an end the pressure on Forex, the pressure on our foreign reserve, the scam around subsidy or no subsidy, and everything is now laid bare for everyone to see. So we are going to wait for what excuse government may have, or what excuse NNPC may also give us why theirs is not working. But NNPC is saying hopefully theirs will also come on stream next year. So let's hope that when NNPC refinery come on stream, there will also be competition. And don't forget, NNPC also owns about 20% shares in Dangote refineries.
Now, I mean, two issues here. The central bank governor, in a very, very excited manner today, during his speech, actually pointed out that Dangote had paid off 70% of the debt or the loan on the refinery. What does that say to you? And then the most fundamental question for every Nigerian, I mean, you say it would start by July. How is it going to affect the pump price of petrol? When I go to the filling station to buy petrol, how will the prices change? And of course, the issue of subsidy, what happens to that?
Now, that of what the CBN governor says, I will not want to speak to that, because I know that there's a lot of debt involved in setting up a refinery of that magnitude. So I will leave that for other people to talk about. But if you also look at the issue of subsidy, if you are expecting PMS, right now it's about 185. If they take away subsidy, you are going to be paying about, as at the current price, you'll be paying current price of crude, you'll be paid between 360 naira to 400 naira, depending upon your location. Now, if you expect Dangote to sell at 185, that may not happen. There has to be an agreement between Dangote and the government, with government paying subsidy for that. Then the second aspect is Dangote going to buy this product in dollars or in naira? So that is also another thing you must factor in. And if it's buying in dollars and then there is total removal of subsidy, you are not going to pay anything less than 360 to 400 naira, depending upon your location. Now, what do we need to do? The net reduction of price with Dangote refinery may not be more than 5 to 6 naira, because you are looking at freight charges, which may not be there. You are looking at insurance. You are looking at a lot of other factors, but they don't go beyond 6, 7 naira. So with subsidy removal, that is going to be what you get. But if government decides to take away subsidy, I think that will be a tough one right now, tough one for the government to go through. Because there are certain fundamentals I look at, and I always say there are two sides to subsidy removal. There is the economics, there is the political economics of the economy, and then there is the economics of the economy. So finding the balance between the political economics of the economy and the economics of the economy is what the incoming administration need to work out if they need to walk the road, whether subsidy goes or not.
And one other area many Nigerians are excited about, speak to us, has to do with the derivatives. You know, when Nigeria takes the crude outside and they bring the refined product, the derivatives never come to us as a country. Speak to us on what kind of good this will mean for us.
that is also something, you see, I'm finding it difficult to curtail myself, because what is there is that the derivatives are huge. What people always think about when they talk about a barrel of crude, people always make assertion to what the kerosene, AGO, which is diesel, DPK, all these that people make. Now, I'll tell you there are about 200 byproducts for every barrel of crude. I have to talk about ethanol, methanol. A lot of these things, what we are going to have is that there's a whole value chain. Don't forget about the fertilizer. And one other aspect that we also forget about refineries. Refineries are engine room for energy. The Dangote refineries you are looking at can also generate power to power Lagos State. It can generate power on its own to whatever we are consuming in Lagos State. That refineries alone can contribute more than 30% of electricity. So it is huge. It's a money spinner. And if we are able to capitalize and maximize it, it's going to turn that side of Lagos into something else. I can sit down here and look at about 400,000 jobs that refinery, both direct and indirect, that refinery will stimulate. So the economy in Ekpe axis right now, with that refinery coming on stream, is going to be something else. And government will also benefit from taxes and what have you. So for me, it's a win. It's not just a win-win. It's in our mutual interest to ensure that refinery is sustained, to ensure there is peace in that community, and also to ensure that the investor will also have the opportunity to recoup from his investment.
Absolutely. And very, very quickly, I mean, very soon we may be going into a post-oil global economy. And is there a chance at all, if you know, that this refinery can actually be repurposed to fit that, emerging global economy? And maybe you can also talk about lessons from, refineries in other parts of the country, in the Niger Delta, for example, the environmental impact assessment, and how the Dangote refinery can actually avoid those pitfalls.
Now, first thing is whoever the owner of that refinery is a smart man. We've all seen his own chain of businesses that he has gotten himself involved in. So he's going to maximize it. And yes, we are talking about green energy. Green energy, you're not going to have it in the next 40, 50 years. Yes, we've been hearing all about that, but you and I know that the CO2 emission is still highest in China, in the US, and in Europe. So we are running what I'll call a baby economy here, and the entire West African sub-region can also be taken care of by Dangote Refinery. So Dangote himself knows that he needs to maximize this opportunity. He has a window. I think it's to take about 40 to 50 years before we can say, oh, let's try something else, and whereby we are going to now say this is the end of fossil fuel. And don't forget, we've been hearing that for more than 40 years too, the end of fossil fuel. Fossil fuel is still the easiest way for us to generate energy and still the easiest way for us to move on. So Dangote would have also factored all of this, because this is virtually one of the biggest refineries in the world. 650,000 barrels. How many barrels is the 3 or 4 NNPC combined refineries? Less than about 400,000 barrels. So this blows everything out of the park. So what we should be looking at is how we will ensure that this investor and the investment has that enabling environment for it to thrive.
And that's a fantastic place to live it. I mean, this is a Nigerian dream come true. Mr. Peter Esele, oil and gas expert, joining us tonight on Newsnight. Thank you very much.